This is some TikTok something or other. You remember when you asked me before we started the show? You remember you asked me, or I asked you if this ties into Pat Metheny somehow?
Yes.
It does actually tie into Pat Metheny, and I'll tell you exactly how once we get into it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Just wait till the end. Just wait till the end.
Oh, he's got a microphone.
Yeah, it's taped to the snare.
Oh, it's taped?
I think he like has it on the snare.
This is exactly, yeah, I'll tell you exactly how this ties into Pat Metheny. He performed the song.
I just love the clapping and the applause at the end. So
no, that thing happened exactly at the Pat Metheny show. I swear to God.
Please do elaborate, because I want to go to a Pat Metheny show, and if he does that, I'm paying extra money.
Are you going to the? He's gonna be at the Bardavon.
I think so. Is it the end of this month? I think
it's his last show. Yeah, well, no, it's middle of the month. You don't have tickets yet?
No. Hopefully
buy tickets now, because I just checked the Bardavon website. It said there were like 10 tickets left.
Shit.
Okay. Yeah. So no, but like get them now, because I was seriously considering flying. The show was so good, I was considering flying up to see that show again. Just like it was worth the plane tickets and everything. Every once in a while, you'll go to a show that changes your perspective on music. And this, I think, was one of them. I legitimately have not listened to, I probably listened to like 90% jazz the last 2 weeks since I've seen the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I like just Pat Metheny. It's so I should pick this up to sign. They have,
beautiful.
I'm sure they'll have this at your thing too. It was worth it.
Beautiful.
They ran out super fast, so it was a good thing I bought it before the show. Only thing that sucked was I had to sit and hold it like this the entire time while I was watching the show, because it was packed. So it was like sitting in the middle seat on the plane. So I was like watching the show like this.
So you had to buy. I thought you bought it after the show. That kind of sucks, like holding it like.
But you could have, but they ran out because everyone bought them. So they sold out of these. So I picked it up. But no, if I could summarize it, I don't want to spoil it too much if you are going to the show, which you absolutely have. Like after the show, don't do anything else. Just go buy tickets to that show. Even if nosebleeds are the only ones left, go get it.
Oh yeah, I would.
But if I could summarize the show in a totally out of context way without spoiling anything, he opened up the concert by talking about Megadeth, and then proceeded to bang on his guitar violently for 5 minutes. And I don't just mean like he was playing I mean he was actually just playing nonsense. Like it sounded like this. He just picked up his guitar. It was like the anticipation, kind of like that art thing where the guy banged his metal cock against a pole. You know what I'm talking about?
From Ray William Johnson
you build the
days.
anticipation. Yeah, you build the anticipation, and then he was just like. I swear to God, that was no exaggeration. That's exactly what it sounded like.
Wait, but he actually talked about Megadeth, or is that like a?
Yeah, he did talk about Megadeth, but he like that was exact like the video you just showed me is what he played. And it was like,
thank God.
Yeah, so he started out the concert with a cool medley of a bunch of his songs on a nylon string. I think Last Train Home was in there somewhere, Minuano, a bunch of his more popular ones. It was just a nice medley. Plucking the nylon string. And just for context, I went with Yad, who is not a musician, so I was really hoping he wouldn't be bored out of his mind. I thought he probably would be, because this, like, Pat Metheny's just on another level of musicianship. And it's not loud or obnoxious like a rock concert, and he was like, at first when he came out and started plucking the nylon string, I'm like, okay, well, I hope the whole show isn't like this. And it was not. Even Yad was impressed with the pacing of the whole thing. As soon as you started to get, I was thinking, okay, Yad's probably bored out of his mind. He switched it up and came out with like a different guitar and had different, he had a loop pedal with him. So it was like kind of like you were describing the Ed Sheeran shows. It's just Pat the entire show with a loop pedal.
Oh, okay. That's kind of like when I saw John Mayer last year. That's what he did too. That's awesome, actually. I mean, because I know in the past, I mean, that's what the whole side eye is. He's had those other musicians with him, but that is That's actually fantastic. I mean, did he go on any Kenny G rants or like any other types of rants or?
Well, I can understand why a lot of people say they don't like jazz, because right now, sometimes you say the word jazz and people think of some of the worst music on earth, like, for instance, Kenny G. I mean, you know, there's nothing more stupid than that. Let's face it. That's the dumbest music there ever could possibly be in the history of human beings. There could never be music any worse than that. And now people think that that's what jazz is. Well, that's not what jazz is at all.
No specific rants about Kenny G, but he did speak a lot, which is cool because he even admitted that's not something he usually does during his shows. It's usually just he comes out with a guitar and he has, like you said, with Side Eye, he has other musicians with him, which I was kind of hoping for. I know that like beforehand, I knew going into it, it was just a solo show, but I was kind of hoping he would bring like the two incredible musicians he had with him. That would have been a fantastic show. But like I said, what was the most impressive, I think, about the whole thing was not just, of course, the otherworldly pacing, the otherworldly playing, but it was the pacing of the show, too. He really knows how to entertain a crowd beyond just, you know, playing really, really well. But no, that's what I meant by when he started talking about Megadeth. he was like, guitar is cool because it's not just, you know, the plucking of the strings. It's like, if I say guitar, this guy over here could be thinking Megadeth, and this guy over here could be thinking, you know, Wes Montgomery. That guy in the back could be thinking the Beatles. Guitar is just such a wide-ranging instrument, and that's why I say you gotta buy tickets to it, because if you're just a fan of music, if you're a musician in general, it's like a must-see show. You just absolutely have to go see it.
Wow, you're really hyping it up. I mean, not that I thought it would be anything short of that, but I guess if you had to say like, as a guitar player yourself, what was like one major aspect, like walking out of that venue, that made you think either differently or reinforce something that you thought about with your playing?
I think in general, it's just when you go see a concert and you're a musician, it's kind of like that meme you ever seen. It's like the football player who's sitting in the stands wearing his pads and he's watching the game.
Yes, that's a great representation. Yeah.
That's always how it makes you feel. But I've always ever been to rock concerts. This was my first true jazz concert, at least by a professional jazz musician, not like, you know, some bar where some random local musician's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And just sitting there thinking, if I practiced every day 8 hours until I'm Pat Metheny's age now, I would never be able to come close to what he's doing up there. Also, just the wide range, like I said, the pacing of the show, the songs that he played. I have a similar set list to what he played when we were there before. He brought, I think, every guitar he owns on that tour. It was a different guitar every time. It's like when we saw Dream Theater, John Petrucci pulls out a different Majesty every time.
Yeah, which is amazing.
But the difference with Pat is that it's not just different guitar tunings. He has his Picasso guitar, which he plays during the show. He does a little solo improv on that.
I think it's wild looking.
It is wild looking, but he actually makes real music with it. That's the cool thing. It's not just an art piece. So one of the songs he played, this is like the third song he played, was a Song for the Boys, and this is what I mean about the change up of the pacing. The first two were just improv on nylon string. He's plucking it. He's playing the bass part with his thumb, and the rest of it with his fingers. He brings out Song for the Boys, which is just a strumming fest the entire time, and it's one of the most incredible strumming songs I've ever heard, and one of the most complex strumming songs that I've ever heard as well. Before that, like, you remember the first song I ever learned how to play on guitar was The Silent Man?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of really weird chord changes and cool creative things he does with that. This song blows that out of the water. It's just different jazz chords that make sense when you play them and when you think about the music theory behind them, but it's like if you tried to play that on a keyboard on Logic and it shows you what note, it's like a C major with a flat 7, and it's like this really crazy stuff, but he plays it so fast and switches so quickly. And the song itself, it sounds, there's only guitar strumming the entire time, but it sounds like there's a whole band playing. That's probably my new favorite Pat Metheny song ever, Song for the Boys. It's off his 2003 album.
It also sounds like a hip hop song, which I think is hilarious.
Song for the Boys, yeah, that is a pretty funny.
Song for the Boys.
Yeah, that is a pretty funny title. So I had never heard of this, thankfully. I was curious because even Yad turns to me while he's banging on his guitar. He's like, "Hey, I could do that." And so I'm like, what was that? Because it was weird. He didn't talk about it. He didn't address it. It's just like he gets done playing this beautiful song for the boys, and then all of a sudden he just smashes his guitar. And the other crazy thing was he had loop pedals going and feedback, and it was just chaos. It was nonsense. And then he just goes right back into playing normal stuff. He played his Picasso guitar after that, and didn't address it. Didn't say anything at all. I'm just like, did he just play art? He just played art.
He played art. Maybe he was like, remember I was telling you the last episode where there's people who have said that he's hard to deal with during shows because he doesn't eat before shows, so he's hangry. Maybe like when he was playing that, he was like, man, I should have had that tuna melt before this, and he just got mad. And then he was like, oh wait, I gotta bring it back down here. But then yes, art. Yeah,
I looked it up, and he actually has an album called Zero Tolerance for Silence, where the entire thing, it's 40 minutes, and it's just that. It just sounds like you left your microphone right in front of your speaker, and you just left the room for 40 minutes, and it's just squealing and slamming on things. It's just garbage.
Wow.
And I looked into why would Pat Metheny, someone of this caliber, why would he make art like this? And the rumor was that he had some dispute with his label, and it was the last album on there, and he hated his contract and everything, so he kind of wanted to flip them the bird. So he just made an album full of fart noises.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
But he vehemently denied this later on and said, no, I would never do something like that. And he basically said it's art, is what he said.
Oh.
He wanted to make an album with art on it for some reason.
Well, it's a cool title.
You should have our definition of art over here, just for the people that don't know what we're talking about.
I'll put it there. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you've heard of Frank Ocean. That's what he did. He was in like that rap group for a while. Then he wanted to do R&B, and the label wasn't giving him an opportunity to do it. So then he released a mixtape for free on like Tumblr at the time, and it was really good. And the label was like, "Oh man, we just missed out on dollar signs." So they let him do Channel Orange in 2012. And then they were like, okay, we need one more album for you. But they were fighting with him on creativity. So he did an album that was just like a live stream album where he just kind of like did random BS and like stack stuff and like timed it so it would be long enough of an album to match his contract restrictions and get him off the label. And then so he basically he fulfilled his contract while also giving the label the finger. And then as soon as that was over, he did his 2016 Blonde record, which was like huge, like game changing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pat Metheny did that also, because that would make sense. But he also does seem like the guy that would be like, no, like everything I do is intentional, which is I think is a good way to think. But also, you don't always have to lie. You could just tell us. That's what you did, because why would we care? We're not going to look at you differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's some experimental something or other where you're trying a new sound or you're just for the sake of like true art. It was just noise. It was yes. Like you or I could just go on there and bang on our guitars and it would sound probably closer to music than what that album sounds like. And unsurprisingly, it's not on streaming. You have to go on YouTube to listen to it.
Interesting. So it'd be like what's the Metallica one with Lou Reed? Is it Lulu?
Yeah, Lulu. Yeah, exactly.
Lulu. Yes.
Yeah.
All-time
but
classic.
at least you could tell like there's some kind of outline of music with that. It's just the filling is made of nothing. But yes. This is just noise. It's just it's like when we were talking about Yes and that Yes review where the Guitar Center and Sweetwater trucks crashed into each other and there were just instruments smashing against the pavement. Yes. That's what it sounded like.
I forgot about that. That was a good analogy we had. Yeah, it happens to the best of us, I think, especially someone on his level. I mean, when I was at the Blue Note Jazz Club a couple months ago, and I saw Pino Palladino and Isaiah Sharkey, and I forgot the drummer's name. His last name's Davis, but huge, like, incredible jazz figures, especially Pino Palladino. I mean, he's played bass on so many famous musicians, big, small, whatever. And they were just like the embodiment of like music, like just watching them play and like the mastery of their instruments and just knowledge of everybody in the room and the people they were playing with, and how if one person just decided to shift to a different signature, like a different, style. Like it was just like smooth transition, no problem. Nobody was like scratching their head, and they had a great time. And that sounds like similar to what your experience was, which I will most definitely after this check tickets for, because I would love to see him. And who knows, maybe
if you have to pay $200 for a nosebleed seat, do it, because it's just if you're just a fan of, if you play a stringed instrument, it's on another level. But if you're just a fan of music in general, you'll love it, because he guitar nerds out too. Like I said, he talks a lot more than he usually does during his other shows, but he talks about really cool, interesting things that only guitar players would be able to relate to, or only stringed instrument players would, like bass, same thing. You'd get what he's saying. And just he's very similar to Eddie Van Halen, and like a lot of stuff that I do, I built that. He likes to experiment and build different guitars. Of course, he doesn't do it himself like Eddie did. He talked about his luthier a lot, who lives out in Canada, and she builds a lot of the crazy guitars he asks for, like the Picasso guitar. And what's cool about Pat's guitars is that it's not just, when like in rock music, sometimes you'll have a drop tuning, or you'll have drop D, or you'll have, D standard, or even C standard, or something crazy like that. Yes. With Pat, it's like, no, I want baritone guitar tuning and Nashville tuning at the same time. It's just like crazy stuff. Like, I want to pick up my guitar and learn that song for the boys, and then I'm like sitting there, but why does this sound nothing like the record? Oh wait, it's one, he plays it with a baritone guitar. Two, he's playing in Nashville tuning, and I think it's in some other weird tuning on top of that too. So you can like kind of get the vague outline playing it in standard tuning on a regular acoustic, but it doesn't sound anything like the record.
Wow, that is. See, minds like that are what really make music, and that's also with like a lot of stuff, which like there's a lot of concern recently with like more advancements in AI stuff, and I've seen there's like programs where you can like AI generate songs that are like instrumentally pretty. It's just standard, but it's a little scary sometimes, like how dead on it can get it. But as long as you have people like who think the way Pat Metheny do, or those producers out there, unsung heroes that sometimes like engineers you don't hear about, as long as you have those people who just come up with these ideas and these mashups that AI would probably never be able to come up with, that's what will keep, I think, music, and also maybe some laws in place. So do you think if I went to that show and like I went to a department store and I bought like a cardboard sign and I wrote like "Play Kenny G" and like held it over my head, do you think he would come up and assault me in the stands?
I think you'd easily get thrown out before you're even let into the into the arena.
Oh my god. Well, that's fantastic, because live music is the king, and thank God since everything's open up again, we can do that, because that was getting brutal for a time. But
that's right. I do want to talk about the end of the show though. So,
of course, yeah.
Some warning, some spoilers coming up. Do you care if I spoil it or no?
No, of course not.
Okay. So spoiler warning ahead of time. But I think before the last episode, you were telling me that one of your friends told me he had robots.
Yes, yeah, so he programmed.
Yeah, I kind of got what he was saying, but a lot. So it's not programmed robots so much, but some of them are programmed, but they're just like It was crazy. Is like the last song, he pulls up the curtain into the back of the stage, and there's this giant, it looks like one of Mike Mangini or Mike Portnoy's or Neil Peart's cage, you know what I mean, like the drum cage, but he has like all kinds of crazy shit that you think you'd find. He just went in his garage and just found pots and pans and just stuck it in there. There's all kinds of weird stuff. He had some weird, I couldn't tell what it was because I was sitting too far away, but there's like some frog looking thing that's made out of chrome and it has bells on it that was dancing the whole time. And he has this thing going in the back. What I thought, and I didn't confirm this, is that it looks like, you know how he has his MIDI guitar where the MIDI programs, it sounds like a synthesizer. It looked like his playing was programmed to that cage in the back, and every time he would play something, it would follow the exact rhythm of his strumming.
Holy crap.
So he had his loop pedal going, and he had that giant cage in the back with all the percussion instruments going at the same time, and he would just loop stuff, and he'd have his guitars on stands, standing up, and he'd run around to each guitar, play something. He had his electric, he had his baritone, he had his nylon string, he had everything going at once, and that's what I mean by it's like it was not boring at all, even for a non-music fan like Yad, because it was just a beautiful composition, and it got pretty loud too at the end. I didn't think I would need earplugs, and I didn't, thankfully, for the entire show, but it got pretty loud during that part, but it was an incredible song. And also, heads up, there are not one, not two, but 3 encores.
Fantastic. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Nothing like the does he like walk off the stage and then he like tucks his head in like,
3 times.
Oh my lord.
It was cool. Every song was awesome, but it's like, yeah, cool. All right, were we done? Is he coming back? Oh, here he is again. Okay. Gotta sit back down. Like every time it was a standing ovation, and we had to like stand up and said we were doing squats the entire time.
Oh, so he was just trying to help you. He was trying to help you exercise.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So not only is he a leading
Jazzercise.
mind in music, jazzercise, yes. It's like the SpongeBob scene where Squidward sticks his hand out from the curtain, and then SpongeBob's
right.
hand, and yeah, that's actually hilarious. Well, I'm glad for that. I'm gonna definitely look for tickets after this.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal show. Definitely recommend it. If if he's going to your area on these last couple of stops of the tour, drop everything, buy tickets right now, go see that thing. And so it's gonna be, I guess, different at every venue you go to, but the venue I went to is the Dr. Phillips Center in Orlando, and it was gorgeous. I mean, the thing is beautiful. Next time you're here, we'll go and we'll see like any kind of show. That's the other thing that made it really cool, is just the venue itself, because they just built, I think they started in 2012. They just built the hall that we were in 2018, so it's brand new, and the architecture is really stunning, and it was just a really cool place. And I sent you that video of just downtown Orlando, so the whole night was fantastic.
I would love to do that. It always amazes me, even when I'm at like MSG and at like a higher seat, like I just think about like I look at all like the wiring and the layouts, like just the amount of work and design that went into just getting the sound right by itself is insane. Like all the cables and the soundboards and just, oh my gosh. I mean, to play it for thousands and thousands of people.
And what's cool about this specific one, it was the Steinmetz Hall, is that they designed it to be able to transform into whatever they need. So it's obviously by default it's a concert hall, but it's kind of like MetLife Stadium. You can you can move all the seats, you can do things, you can turn it into a banquet hall or a bunch of individual round tables. You could do a bunch of different stuff with it.
Wow. That's beautiful. Good. I love it. I'm sure you saw the video on Dream Theater's Instagram. They finished the drum tracking, and they were just like, it was John and Mike, and they were just cheesing the whole time, and I thought that was really cool. And they're just talking about like, hey, we got the drum tracking done, most of the writing is done. I think it'd be really cool if it would come out the end of this year. I think there's still a chance, but I wouldn't be surprised early 2025. But one of my favorite comments, which I mentioned to you, and I wanted to get your comments on, is people were like commenting like, oh my god, awesome, can't wait, this is gonna be so exciting. And then someone's just like, oh, can't wait, please don't over digitize and compress your sound, please. And I think John does that more often than sometimes in the past, but I think he's just trying to keep in time with like other musicians and bands in the genre that Dream Theater is in. I do agree, though, sometimes overly compressing and digitizing your sound, it can be kind of a death of it and make it sound a little more artificial than I think it can be. But then he throws on like 7 layers of distortion and it's fine. But I'm just curious, like, what you think of like earlier to mid Dream Theater and like their last couple albums with like more of the digitized sound.
I'd say free Mike Mangini.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say. Also, to finish my thoughts on the concert, not button. Definitely not button.
We need that.
Yeah. But I did want to talk, even though it's not necessarily music related, I did want to talk about that documentary that came out about the Nickelodeon. Yeah, Quiet on Set, about the Nick. Did you watch that?
Just clips of it. It was pretty horrifying, disturbing. No surprise, of course. And then just like research clips on like some of the people there, like the one pedophile who, went to jail for a decent amount of time, and then like a couple months after he was released, just
Brian
a job
Peck.
right at Disney. Yeah, Brian Peck. Got a job right at Disney, working on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Yeah.
So
I guess it is
fantastic.
kind of related to our show a little bit, because the fun fact, the reason that I have the SIW caster was a Christmas gift for my parents when I was 7 years old, because Drake from Drake and Josh had a red Stratocaster with a white Perloid pickguard, and I wanted that. And somehow my parents found that for like a decent amount at Sam's Club. So it was like $100 guitar, but it was almost exactly the guitar that he had. So I loved it. But of course I was 7, so I played it for like 3 seconds, threw it in the corner until I did that to it. But I have a very, I think, a semi-unpopular take that is going to get me canceled on the whole documentary.
Okay.
So obviously the Brian Peck stuff, yeah, Brian Peck is a scumbag and should be put to death. But everyone's shitting all over Dan Schneider. Yes, I think he's a creep and a weirdo, like everyone says. But at the same time, I think about 75% of that docu-series were all of these. And think about it. Other than Drake, had you heard of any of those people before you watched that documentary?
Only a handful. I mean, Ariana Grande, of course.
No, I mean like the people who actually did interviews for the documentary.
No.
Yeah, no, you haven't heard any of them. I think a lot of them are just like, oh, cool, an opportunity to see some fame because I kind of got the shaft before. Yeah, let me go on and just make up all kinds of shit. So a lot of the stuff I felt, so yes, the foot stuff was creepy, but a lot of the stuff I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that could kind of be construed as sexual or whatever, but isn't that kind of a stretch a little bit? And they were just pretending like it was a foregone conclusion. Like, yes, absolutely, that's what I did. Now, the only thing that makes me say, okay, maybe it was, is because Dan Schneider came out and did his typical public apology that all these weirdos do.
And he had somebody from the show give him
a
softball
Tebow
questions.
Yeah, Tebow.
Yeah, Tebow.
Yeah.
Give him. He's like, man, what's up with the massages?
Yeah, I mean,
like, come on.
Yeah, just to me, it seemed like a lot of those things were like, okay, maybe that's kind of a little bit of a stretch. I guess I could see how that could be construed as whatever, but that's a little bit of a stretch. And then the best part is the parents of these child actors come on, and I'm sure the question was like, oh yeah, so all these shitty things were happening to your kids and they were being abused and molested. Why were you not there? Oh well, we didn't want to say anything because they were making us too much money. I mean, because we were afraid that they would like ruin their lives or something, and they would ruin their careers, and we didn't want to do that to our kids.
Yes.
There's like a specific scene that they were asking one of the parents, I forget which one it was, but it's like almost exactly what I just said. Other than the Freudian slip is what their reasoning for letting their children be molested was.
Yeah, I know Drake Bell, or Jared Drake Bell, excuse me. His mom is a big issue with that, from what I heard, what he was talking about, and that is disgusting, and it's a shame that these parents would just leave their kids out to the wolves like that. And yeah, of course, you never know what's being said. Maybe the kids never said anything, or this and that. But also, as a parent, you need to have some kind of intuition. Like you see Dan Schneider walking around like touching people's shoulders and like putting feet scenes in every other episode. Maybe you're like, maybe I should talk to my son, or just in general, son, or like, just be more involved with your kids, especially. But that's the thing you see, like, a prime example of that is McCulkin, that child actor. All the child actors, they just get the shaft because they're just put in front of creative weirdos who some of them, if not most of them, should probably be behind bars or like maybe seeing a therapist. And then they just have access to young, undeveloped minds and also eager kids who want to make it big in something that they feel passionate about. And it is a massive shame. And also, but at the same time, it's also something that's like not really a surprise, as sad as that sounds. It's
exactly.
like almost a given at this point. Like, I'd be shocked that this documentary didn't come out. And all the feet stuff, like that one scene, he had Ariana Grande just like put her own foot in her mouth. Like, okay, that's kind of disgusting. Like, what was the point of that? Or like the ketchup on the feet, this and that. So yeah, so there's some stuff that, I mean, we were like, what, 8, 9, 10, like, we're not gonna pick up on that. We're just gonna be like, ew, oh, feet, whatever. And but it also explains why you see, like, Drake Bell in the news more often, with like him talking to kids and then like disappearing and people can't find him, and he's like, because it's a psychological break. And I understand also, if you look at the psychology of abuse, that's usually why people don't say anything for years is because of PTSD, and your brain is designed to suppress certain things like that. And also, yes, there is a level of parents or other executives who are like, oh, if you speak out, your career's over. No more money for you, no more family for you. And snippets from Jeanette McCurdy's book.
Well, if someone tells me that and my kids their lives are being destroyed, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
yes,
forget the money.
That's what you would.
You know what I mean? That's what a normal, not just a good parent,
normal.
just like a normal function, like a human being with a functioning brain would do.
I agree.
And a moral
and it's
conscience.
a shame that. Well, that's why Jeanette McCurdy. I don't know if you ever saw. My girlfriend showed me the book too, and I heard snippets from it. She wrote a book called.
I'm glad my mom died. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, she's holding the urn and this and that, and I read some of it and listened to some of it, and her mom was one of those bad mothers, like forced her daughter to be a product rather than a child. And also she talked about Dan Schneider on set, on how he was able to flip a switch and 1 second be like, oh, you're the best, he would nurture you, like make you feel good, and then the next second rip you to shreds, use things he said against you, be a disgusting human being. But also, those are the type of people you run into in showbiz. They're not like normal 9-to-5 office job people. Like I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't. What I'm trying to say is, like, you have to be somewhat prepared to be around weird people like that. But unfortunately, when you have executives who give jobs to pedophiles instead of putting them 6 feet under, like where they belong, stuff like that perpetuates itself, and that's the biggest problem. But the worst part about all of this is this isn't going to be this isn't the first time, and it sure as hell won't be the last time that we ever hear about stuff like this.
That's what I was going to say. It's not the answer to the question of how do they let this happen is because how do they hire this guy 16 months after he got out of jail for raping a child? Because they all do it. Because look at Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
Look at it happens to adults. Of course, it's going to happen to kids too. That's Hollywood. It's just a bunch of degenerate animals that happen to be gifted in the arts. And we sit and we watch this quote unquote entertainment. Yeah, the stuff is good, but it's at the cost of these demonic, sinful idiots.
Yes. And I don't think it'll ever really change because it always happens. And then we saw stuff with PDiddy now. I mean, I looked at his thing of just him as a human the last 20 years. He's been in and out of lawsuits and criminal charges for the past 23 years. So, like, I've seen some people, like, shocked, like, what? Oh, my God, stuff with Diddy and potential human sex trafficking, this and that. He's been on accounts multiple times, just, like, beating people up randomly, taking things from people, silencing people with money. His dad was connected when he was a kid. His dad was murdered in his car at 33 years old. Like, he's got anger issue problems. You just see stuff in interviews where he says stuff that's like, what the heck? There's an interview of him and Mike Tyson back in the early 2000s, like just sitting on a couch, and Diddy looks like he's on every drug that's ever been invented, and his hand is like almost caressing Mike Tyson's leg, and Mike Tyson like moves his hand and like adjusts his jacket and moves, and he's like, hey man, like, like what are you doing here? And everyone's just like, ha. Nobody sits there and says, whoa, what's going on here? Why is this guy do? No, it's just ha.
It truly is about the Benjamin, as we see.
Oh yes, he's glittering.
It truly is about the Benjamin.
Well, now when we come back, we're gonna talk more with Puffy, and if you want to hang out, more than welcome to stick around, my brother. All right.
That's the
following
problem.
That story too closely, but my thought is, you're telling me that a guy who raps about banging hoes, doing drugs, stealing cars, and other crimes might be a criminal. There's no way.
Separate the art from the artist.
He's innocent. Yeah. Well, so I think that whole thing is for the most part BS. Separate the art from the artist, because a lot of the artist bleeds into the art that they create. As a matter of fact, most of it is.
Yes.
Plus, if you're talking about music or films or anything where you'd pay to see that art, you're financially supporting that stuff that you don't believe in, that the artist believes in.
Exactly.
So that's the reason why I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar. I don't listen to Beyonce because she sucks and she actually is not good at her music is not good. The only reason she gets all this attention is because of an agenda, but yeah, that's why I don't believe in that sentiment, personally.
Yeah, no, it's I do agree. A big part of it is also just like there's a lot of avid for me personally, like there's a lot of avid like rabid Kanye fans, and like his new stuff is literally exactly what he says. And it's like they're like, "Oh, separate art from the artist." It's like you can't, because it's in there. And also he's a degenerate person. He's never respected anybody other than himself, and it's just who he is. And he raps about it all the time. And he's a father. He's a daughter, and he parades his new wife around like she's a Barbie doll. And yeah, I'm sure she goes along with it for the attention and stuff like that too. But like, there's no morals of like, maybe my wife should put clothes on when she's in public. Maybe she shouldn't be like an object. Maybe I shouldn't say all these things in front of my susceptible 14-year-old daughter, and then like have her on a rap song and like, I don't know. So it's like I agree, you can't really separate art from the artist, especially like I've seen people in the past too. Like some people are like, oh man, like some old heads are like, I used to love Rage Against the Machine. What happened? Like, they're so political. I can't listen to the music anymore. Did you ever listen to a single song they ever wrote? Every single song they've written is a Tom Morello political rant.
Yes, exactly.
Every single song.
That's why I've never listened to them ever and won't.
That's why I'm like, but like that is also a point that people don't listen to lyrics. They just hear melodies and they're just like, oh, cool. Like you could have lyrics about like literally nothing, and as long as the melody's good, they'll listen to it, and that's a problem. But
oh well, I'm like that. I don't give a rat's ass about lyrics. But yeah, I love lyrics. like Rage Against the Machine, for example. Like I don't listen to. If it weren't all over the news that Tom Morello is a communist, I would have no idea by listening to his music, because again, I don't listen to the lyrics. But I know that, and so I don't listen to Rage Against the Machine. I've listened to songs here and there. I know they're songs, but it's just to me, it's not good. I don't know if that taints it or whatever, but I'm just not a fan of their music and don't like a single song from any of them. Same thing with Audio Slave too. Like same concept.
Audio Slave is. Oh my God, Chris Cornell just drones on those songs.
I like Chris Cornell. I like some of the Soundgarden stuff, but I just won't listen to Audio Slave. And also, the writing's not really that impressive either.
No, it's not. I do like Chris Cornell too. I just wish Soundgarden had better album covers. I think their album covers are horrendous. Oh my God. I guess there was one last thing I wanted to show quickly. I mean, you'll see it on the tape here, but earlier this week, or whenever this comes out this month, I should say, was the 30th anniversary of when Kurt Cobain committed suicide. No longer around. I got this. Life printed this really cool magazine, this cover here. Read through it. But I just thought I saw his daughter Frances Cobain, who actually just got married to Tony Hawk's son, which is hilarious to me.
Is that her second marriage?
It is her second marriage. Her first marriage was to forgot his name, but the thing that he was a musician too. The thing that sucks though is, so Kurt Cobain's legendary Mustang acoustic guitar or whatever that he played on the MTV Unplugged. She inherited that, of course, and then when she was married to him, she like let him use that guitar because he played guitar more than her, and she kind of like gave it to him just to like use. And then in their divorce, he was able to argue that was a permanent gift to him, and she couldn't get it back. So now this random guy just has that guitar forever. It's kind of a shame that she lost her dad's guitar because in the divorce. But she put a really interesting Instagram post up for it, and about him, and I thought it was really nice if anybody checks it out. But yeah, I think just a testament to someone like Kurt. It's just really interesting to see certain people who come into the scene without nepotism, I think, and it's kind of inevitable at some point in our society and culture that nepotism is going to play a fact, because it's just, more people get famous in the scene, they have kids, and it's not like anything inherently terribly wrong with nepotism, but obviously some people see that as like a little unfair, but you still need to have talent. Or like Kurt and Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic, like they were normal people. Nobody really knew who they were, and then they just had a passion and they made the music. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I thought it was interesting that it was the 30th anniversary.
Huge boost from the industry, though.
I like
Nirvana. I actually really like them. I have a lot of songs in their playlist and everything. I think Kurt definitely brought a lot to the table, not as far as technicality, but he was a great songwriter. But I'd have to say that Nirvana is probably the single most overrated band of all time. And I've heard like diehard Nirvana fans be like, yeah, that's actually spot on. Because like I said, I like Nirvana, but just like their songwriting was very good. It was not spectacular. And obviously the musicianship was not all there. But what I do like is that Kurt understood this, and he was very anti-Hollywood, very anti-establishment. And I like what he stood for as far as that goes. Like we were just talking about a little bit earlier. Just a bunch of degenerate freaks. And he didn't want to be a part of it. He wanted nothing to do with it. So big respect for that.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Yeah. Well, I'm all out of topics. I don't know about you, but
sounds good. Just play us out with that song that I sent you from the 1930s.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely.
Yes. I don't care if we get copyrighted. Just have that going.
I'll put that as the outro.
Sounds good.
Hope everybody enjoys this one. Put it out as we go out.
I like to pet, and every evening we get set. I stroke it every chance I get. It's my girl's pussy. Seldom plays and never purrs, and I love the thoughts it stirs, but I don't mind because it's hers. My girl's pussy. Often it goes out at night, returns at break of dawn. No matter what the weather's like, it's always nice and warm. It's never dirty, always clean, in giving thrills, never mean. But it's the best I've ever seen, is my girl's pussy.